Well, this has surfaces, edges, and points, but by the introduction of curve, of femininity into it, and flow, like philosopher Alan Watts said, the whole universe is wiggly. What's our obsession with straightness?
I love that.
And Walter Russell, a physicist around the time of Tesla, said all motion is spiral and all direction is curve.
Yeah.
That's this in multi forms. What I was able to discover, which you didn't see, you want to see my close encounter moment?
Oh, yes, absolutely.
Okay, so there's a structure called the vector equilibrium. Buckminster Fuller called the secrets of the universe. He thought it was the universal geometric code of the universe. It's comprised of 8 of these tetrahedrons, and it builds a structure that has a true 0 point in the middle. Mm-hmm. All of the vectors are equal length and equal offset of each other, and it just keeps building octaves of itself from any point, anywhere. So if it had a little edge to it, that would be the beginning of the exact same structure. Mm-hmm. So we're all in our own universe of this geometric structure. So I'm going to show you how that relates very quickly, if I can, to sacred geometry.
Oh, yes, please.
It's going to take a minute.
We actually offer sacred geometry drawing courses at Star Family Wisdom because we recognize the importance of engaging these patterns, these structures, for the purpose of, bringing our energy field back into harmony. And when you draw it and work with the flower of life, vector equilibrium, you can access, higher states of consciousness, higher intelligence, like that.
Well, because you're consciously thinking that you are in that field.
Right.
You tell yourself, I am in that field that all things are. Starts sounding very Jesus-y. Then you're able to potentially manipulate what we call reality.
Yeah.
You bend the rules, just like in the movie The Matrix. And you know how to fly, like Neo did at the end of the first Matrix. He could control and do what looked like a miracle to anybody else. He was just working with the structure of the Matrix. So rather than straight lines in the vector equilibrium, we're going to have now, in 12 of them, we're going to have 12 pulses, which makes a lot more sense because everything is pulse. And the core cluster would look a lot like this. We've replaced every straight line with that dimensional, what the inventor of it called the Tryon ray. So I had this shape and I said, I want to see what that does. So I did it the quickest way I could. And I got pipe cleaners and styrofoam balls. And here at the top is more or less that star cluster. You can probably see it there.
Oh, amazing. If you're not watching on YouTube, jump over to YouTube so you can see Eric show the geometric model.
So I'm looking at this and I'm seeing this multidimensional star cluster, and I'm just going to let it build. This is Buckminster Fuller's model, but only on curvilinear space now in pulse. And I just let it build and design itself. And I had no idea that when I flipped it over from the flat table it was on, it was 2-dimensional sacred geometry.
Oh, there it is. Oh, amazing. Look at that.
2D becomes actually 4D. There are 4 planes, orbits around each of these structures. So that star cluster takes you to flat, just like in the movie Contact. If you're thinking dimensionally, will take you to the star. So I don't usually show that because it's a little complicated, but we're here. And I will tell you.
Yeah, go ahead, Eric.
Real quick, I will. Anybody that thinks, well, that's his opinion, and who is he? He's already said he didn't know anything about geometry. Happened to have the privilege of some of the workshops I was in think tanks. One of the world's top physicists was on my podcast here in Laguna Beach. We met for dinner here in my little apartment. Super nice guy, Manas Kafatos. He's written more books about physics and spirituality, written books with Deepak Chopra, New York Times bestsellers, dean of physics, travels around the world talking about quantum physics. He saw that exact model I just showed you. And he goes, where did you get your physics degree? And I go, I never did. And he said, how did you build that? And I kind of gave him the quick version and he goes, that is the most elegant and beautiful model of the quantum universe I have ever seen.
Oh, Eric, oh my
Yeah.
goodness.
And I'm not making that up. I have witnesses. Michelle Anderson, who spoke at Portal to Ascension, she was here that
Oh
night
my goodness. Oh
podcast.
wow.
So I believe all along that what sacred geometry is a blueprint, a flat 2D blueprint, trying to inform us of a much more complex and but even more beautiful multidimensional structure.
I agree. I agree. And it resonates so deeply with me, on that level of this is truth,
Yeah.
and when you start to work with it in your life and you recognize how it affects energy and it shifts your energy, you've got, evidence that starts to build, related to the geometry and recent evidence. Eric, this is another piece of validation, I think, for you and your work and how you've been guided and why we are connecting. When I started to engage these spiritual technologies from India that Yeshua, Jesus, and his crew, the disciples, all used back in the day, as these, were presented to the world by Sri Kaleshwar, he talks about these specific mantras being some of the most powerful in the world because they are based off of the root sounds of creation, meaning the root frequencies of creation, these frequencies that align with the geometric structure and harmony of the universe. And he talks about how, when we utilize these mantras, it is opening these channels, these, we're shifting the geometry to open energy channels. And he talks about yantras, which are involved in this practice, which most of them are just, say, 2D sacred geometry on paper. The yantra is the physical blueprint of the sounds of God. See, so it all ties together. So we have this understanding now of, even some of these ancient spiritual practices being related to sacred geometry.